Hey everyone, welcome to the Skilling Podcast, where we chat and get to know passionate content creators, competitive players, and all voices in between that make the Pokemon community incredible. Today's guest is a return friend. It's Chompy. He's an OU master, and we're going to be doing some really kind of fun ideas today. Chompy has had a couple of videos recently in the last couple weeks or so, and so Josh had this idea, and we kind of wanted to get together again and really look at what makes bad Pokemon not work in OU, and how, if possible at all, could we make a team with a bad Pokemon as its focal point and maybe redeem it somewhat. So but first we kind of want to catch up really quick with you, Chompy, see how you're doing. So I'm just curious, what has your summer been like?
I mean, first of all, thank you guys for having me back on. It truly was a blast last time, and I can't wait to obviously undergo our podcast today. But yeah, summer's been going pretty well. Just a lot of busy work, kind of scrambling, what to do next in college, what's the steps moving forward.
Yeah.
And then also been trying to do just better physically, been going to the gym,
Nice.
Just trying to improve all aspects of life, because, kind of last summer was kind of no life in YouTube, just being on the internet all the time, not really doing anything. I'm trying to change up my life a bit to make sure it's a bit more healthier and obviously better in all circumstances.
That's great. I dig that. The balance, right? You have to kind of, I feel like for me, it's like almost balancing away from the screens and reading again, exercise, taking time outside, and doing, just balancing it all. It's been really nice to just kind of recenter yourself a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, I find the gym as just almost like a weird mental health fun break. It's just it's peaceful. I don't really gotta think about much. It's just gotta do these weights, maybe think about some life things, but it's just get all this energy out, and then I come back and I relax and I do whatever I want.
Same reason I go, for sure. Just a way to kind of get out of the house for a day, for an hour or whatever, and move your body. It feels good. Get those good chemicals in your brain flowing and everything like that. So we want to ask you as well before we hop into it. I haven't had a DLC for Scarlet and Violet, obviously, since the end of last year. So I think to a degree, a lot of the meta is kind of settled. As far as what you've seen with usage or any matches that you've played or watched or other channels you've watched, do you have any insights or anything that you're kind of monitoring right now, as we are, I wouldn't say a slow period, but I'd say we're kind of stabilizing, at least definitely more so compared to the first couple of years of Gen 9.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, dude. I mean, the first year, even late 2023, all the way up till the end of 2023, the metagame was always changing, always evolving, always adapting. You had the base game, and then 7-8 months later we had Pokemon Home, and then only 2-3 months later we get the DLC. A lot of metagame has changed, and even now. So I made a video I think a while back detailing some weird metagame trends that are going on. I think a couple of them I can talk about now. I will be upfront with everyone. Obviously, I haven't been paying attention to the meta as much as of lately. I'll probably say the past month or so I've been pretty occupied with a lot of things. But from what I was observing and from what I've seen bits and pieces, Scissor was really cool. It's actually been really nice to see Moltres getting its shine back. I remember it was pretty relevant right before DLC 1. But as soon as DLC 1 dropped, Ogerpon absolutely blew it out of the water. So it kind of just got shunned away from DLC 1 and was kind of back into RU. But now with Volcarona banned once more, and Moltres has a niche to fill, a flame body, kind of physically defensive King Gambit stopper, and it really fulfills that role well. And I've also seen other people use it as a special defense wall, which is actually pretty cool, because if you fish that flame body off King Gambit before it gets going, then you also serve as a King Gambit stopper. So it's kind of been cool to see Moltres really rise, and then that's one Pokemon I really love to see. Scissor was a cool one, but Scissor's also been slowing down now that Moltres has taken up that spot. I believe Scissor before was taking up the spot of Volcarona because it was hey, it's a great fairy resist to Enamorus, it's Bug and Steel, has priority, you can do quick attack, bullet punch kind of shenanigans, Terra Normal, has 2 bases of priority, so if you can't get a bullet punch off, or it's less resistance or less effective, you can go for a quick attack and vice versa. But obviously when Moltres around, it's a bit more tough. So, I mean, those are some of the metagame trends. And then obviously you have Zamazenta, but that was also just to be expected over time. It's basically a box out legendary in OU. So
it's crazy.
Never going to put that down. I expected that to rise, especially with Volcarona ban now. There's no flame body user except for I guess Moltres really stopping it, but still it does massive amounts of damage no matter what.
That's the thing, it's always evolving, but it's cool to see some, I know you talked about Moltres, and I can't remember who else. I mean, I'm subscribed to a bunch of people I've noticed a couple other people like either using it in some videos, like just laddering for a little bit, or actually like doing some mini video essays on Moltres. It's cool to see it have that specific niche for King Gambit. So obviously King Gambit's been like the meta for like basically the entire life cycle of
generation. So
yeah, it's cool to see that. So kind of like what the idea with today is, obviously with power creep, obviously with the release of, you know, Pokemon Home, all these DLCs, new stuff comes in, stuff rises, but when stuff rises, stuff also falls. Interestingly enough, when new stuff is introduced, sometimes it just doesn't stick. You know, we're talking about King Gambit, where it's introduced in Gen 9 and it's been like the status quo pretty much the entire time, but then there's also new Pokemon that are introduced and it's like, this actually isn't that great. So we have a few examples of new ones that haven't stuck today, and some old friends that were great for a long time, and then finally power creep. They couldn't stave it off forever. It finally caught up to them. But we're going to see today if we can break out the old, you know, OU defibrillator and revive some of these Pokemon. So what we're going to be doing is Logan, Chompy, myself have each picked one Pokemon that are technically still used in OU right now, but they're very low usage or dropping. You don't see them too often. And we're going to talk about maybe why that's happened, talk about the niche that they do fill, maybe talk about some sets. I know Chompy built a specific team for the Pokemon that he's going to cover, so we'll save that. We won't spoil it right away. And then at the end, we'll go over the team that Chompy made, and then we'll maybe share the pace for you guys to try out. But let me go ahead and share my screen really quick.
Yeah, so we're going to start off today with Slither Wing. So Slither Wing, I mostly chose it because I think it's such a cool, I don't know why, I just think it's a cool design. I think they did such a fun idea with, you know, the Volcarona Paradox Pokemon, and there's stuff to be figured out here. But obviously, let's start with the main reasons why, and kind of from my basic research and things like that, why it started to fall off, if even never even gaining really ground to begin with, right? So with Slither Wing, the biggest thing is, first and foremost, it's typing. It's typing of bug fighting with, you know, a good amount of flying types hitting the, you know, the stage, especially with, you know, we had early Gliscor, which was a crazy threat to it, and then also we had the speed stat on this thing is kind of in an odd spot. It's not great, doesn't really do it any favors. This is my TED talk of why Slither Wing is a boss and options in how we can make this better. So right now, the first two sets I have up here are just the two Smogon RU sets that are, you know, offered to you as you look it up. You know, you got the heavy duty boost, which is a common helper to Slither Wing because it is susceptible to every kind of hazard out there, and so this makes it so that it's a little bit more viable because it does have a really decent attack stat with 135, so it can get some work done, and so you can make it U-turn. You can, you know, use that close combat for that really strong stab, and then Will-O-Wisp with Morning Sun to make it bulky, and then you have Smogon RU number 2 with the Choice Band. This is just leaning into that power, trying as hard as you can to get, you know, some really good hits off with that first impression.
Yeah, just spam first impression with that one for sure.
Yeah, basically it's a button pressure, try and get as much damage off as you can. So if you scroll down a little bit, these were kind of some sets that I had some ideas on. Because I
can't beat them, join them.
So this is my first one called Can't Beat 'em, Join 'em, because obviously the big issue is flying types. Flying types are not fun for Slither Wing. So why not take advantage of that? Because Slither Wing actually gets acrobatics. And so kind of a fun idea I had was to take advantage of the booster energy ability with photosynthesis, get that attack buff right away. And then when people try to, you know, come in with a flying attack move, or even, you know, just try and take advantage of any of the bug or fighting type weaknesses, you can terror type into that, get your booster energy, so acrobatics is double the power. I did the math on this, and I mean, I don't think it's like crazy incredible, but it's actually pretty decent, where on like a Gliscor, there's a defensive Gliscor, can do 60% with just one single acrobatic.
Whoa.
So it can two-shot it. And then the idea along with this is, because it does get body press, and so I also feel like one of the major issues is that a lot of times, you know, Slither Wing runs close combat, which hinders its defenses, and it kind of needs those defenses to stay viable. So we can kind of run some body press sets with the Morning Sun, stay healthy, and still do some major damage, be actually able to play against like a Skarmory, other things of that nature, so that way, you know, you're doing some good shenanigans there, staying healthy, staying viable. Next one we have is, this one is for the flying types. specifically. This is called Fight the Flight. Instead of Fight or Flight,
this
we're
is
fighting
totally
it.
180 from the one before.
So, and my idea with this is to basically use the mind games, right? So people will be coming in, they'll be switching in that flying type. They're like, oh, I'm gonna get him this time. They don't even know what's gonna. And then you Terra Electric, and they're like, wait, what? And then you Wild Charge, or you Terra Blast, and then they're just, what? How did that even happen? Because you're doing with the Terra Blast, max attack, and the stat spread that I have here, you're doing 60 to 70% to a Skarmory with just a Terra Blast. A Wild Charge is doing even more.
60-70%. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yo, low key. Dude, maybe you can get on ladder with this one, bro.
It's a crazy fun strat because especially with the bulk up, you can get stronger, you can do some more, and you got that leftovers to get yourself a little bit healthier. And then when people want to send in their ground types to try and take you out, you got the Trailblaze, so you can get your speed up. Or you can also alternate to Flame Charge if you want to be able to handle the steel types a little bit more. And then this is my next set. This is called Slither in the side wing. Because Slither Wing actually gets a pretty good amount of moves that have either 100% or like a pretty good percentage of doing some sort of hindrance to stats or things of that nature. So kind of the idea here is to go a little bit bulkier, special defense and HP, just kind of keep yourself alive. And you got that Body Slam for the paralysis shenanigans. You got Will-O-Wisp to cut attack. And so this was more of a supportive player on your team. You got Skitter Smack, which I believe lowers special attack, if I remember correctly. And then you got Low Sweep for the speed. So basically anything you're using is going to do some sort of hindrance to your opponent, making it so that it can kind of play around. And then we got the wide lens on there to be able to make sure that we're hitting. I believe Skitter Smack is 90% as well as Will-O-Wisp 85. So make sure that those are hitting. And the last one, this one is kind of leaning more into that because for a lot of these, obviously we can tell that Terra type is Slither Wing's best friend. But
get rid of that bug fighting, right?
Yeah. Get rid of that bug fighting, right? We gotta get rid of that double weakness. But this one, I kind of wanted to lean more into the bug type, just because I think it'd be kind of fun. And so what I wanted to do is kind of take advantage of that weakness with a weakness policy, so you can get that buff right away. And physical attack, you got a +2 right away. And then you're going to be kind of leaning into that speed a little bit more, so giving yourself a little bit more speed, but with and the attack. And then you got the close combat for just hitting hard. You got the wild charge, and then you got the bulk up and the leech life to be able to kind of stay a little bit viable and get yourself healthy again. Those are kind of my basic ideas for why Slither Wing is so awesome, and kind of just because I mean,
you
I think
nailed it.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. I felt pretty proud of some of the ideas. I really think the acrobatics one was really cool, just because Slither Wing does get some interesting moves that you didn't think it would get, and so there were a couple tools that I think could be really useful, especially with the booster energy and photosynthesis. So lots of fun there.
Dude, it's such a shame because it's such an awesome design, has so many cool moves, but they just don't. The stat distribution, like, come on. Like, you see Slither Wing, like you see Slither Wing, that thing is more like ferocious. The other one's just a robot, man. You can disconnect it from the outlet. But this one, like, come on,
just unplug it. I know, dude. That's the thing. I was talking to Logan before you hopped on, and I was like, so I mean, outside of the typing, like, what's the issue with it again? I put the stat spread. I'm like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
It's other than the attack, everything's kind of mid. So I like the creativity here, dude. That's awesome. So this Pokemon I got Revenge of the Land Shark. I don't have any cool nicknames for the sets or anything like that. You did better than I did, man. I'm a little embarrassed. But this is Revenge of the Land Shark, so we'll at least get that. Obviously, Garchomp, competitive mainstay basically since its debut back in Gen 4, where it was even ranked in Ubers. And it's been solid OU from basically Gen 5 through 8, and was even, if I'm not mistaken, remained OU in Gen 9 for a little bit before all the stuff got introduced and started to
power crept,
started to mess it up. So, but yeah, as of recent tier shifts, Garchomp has fallen to UU for the first time in its illustrious career, which is sad to see. I think it's in UUBL actually, so it's like in the no man's land in between.
Yeah. So it's not good enough for OU, but too powerful for UU. Like,
so we're gonna see what we can do to maybe get it back up into OU, at least in some cases. The thing with Garchomp is it's decent as a spike setter. It's got that utility, but the power creep made its previously great 102 base speed sort of average, which is crazy to say in Gen 9 that 102 speed is kind of meh, but you know what?
Yeah.
It is. I think I echo you, Chompy, when I say this, but please give this thing Dragon Dance. I could not believe that it still does not have Dragon Dance. I don't know, maybe that would make it more powerful than we can comprehend, but you never know. But
just like theoretically speaking, this thing is agile, dude. It got some feet. It can move. It can dance, bro. It's Dragon dance. Move. There you go. Like, come on,
it's that simple. It's that simple.
He could do the Thriller.
with the big fins and everything, I can see it. I can see it.
Heck yeah.
But even then, before the release of Pokemon Home, Garchomp was still finding some usage, right? With its defensive attributes, you can even run some certain offensive sets on it. Sadly, the main culprit for pushing this out was Gliscor, that nasty vampire bat. Gliscor's utility is just through the roof. It's got the defenses, it's got the Toxic Orb, it's got the flying type. So, sadly, Gliscor just offers a lot more. But that being said, let's see what kind of value you can get out of our old friend here from 2007. First one's a pretty standard, Tank Chomp set. This is what you'll see mostly being run for those who do run Garchomp. Rough Skin Rocky Helmet is the basic synergy here. It's going to punish your contact moves. And here we want to kind of flaunt Garchomp's access to Spikes and Stealth Rock. You can run both, or you can just run one of the two. On all of these, EQ is pretty much always going to be there because it's just good 100% accurate stab. You can just never go wrong with that, obviously. And then Dragon Tail for phasing. I did think you could also sub out one of Spikes or Stealth Rock out for Toxic if you just kind of want to, spread out being annoying as much as possible. You can also, on this EV spread, I tried to maximize Garchomp's speed so that way the hazards could be laid out as quickly as possible before it falls. Yeah. Or if you want, you can go Impish and rearrange the EVs. That way, if you simply don't plan on, because Garchomp's 102, if you don't think you're going to outspeed a certain team that you're prepping for, then just go strictly for the bulk and try to live the hits that you'll most likely be taking. So next one is a mixed Chomp. Garchomp's 80 special attack isn't really anything to write home about, but with the right investment and the Life Orb, you can maybe catch some people off guard and make yourself a threat to a couple different types of defensive walls. The set also has rocks on it just to maintain the utility, or you can sub out rocks for a fourth coverage move. Garchomp gets access to like Iron Head, of course Stone Edge. You can get Surf, you can do Terra Blast. It doesn't get Aqua Tail anymore. I think they took that away in this generation from it. It used to have Aqua Tail.
Ooh.
So I still like rocks on this just because it's it's a nice offensive Rockmon.
Yeah. I just want to make some comment about the mix set. Actually, funny enough, I don't know if you guys were playing beginning of Scarlet Violet, but I think midway through, a bit before Pokemon Home, there was actually like a mixed Garchomp was actually pretty popular, and it used to be like Trickle Meteor, like Earth Power, Fire Blast.
Okay.
I forgot the last move around. It probably might have been Stealth Rocks or like something else, but yeah, people actually used mixed Garchomp a lot, and it was actually really surprising the amount of success it had. I think at one point it was more popular to use than just normal Garchomp. Oh, that's what the set. It was like Draco Meteor, Fire Fang, Earthquake or Earth Power, and then you have like, Earth Fire Blast. Sorry, and then maybe it was rocks. I don't really remember the set, but it was like some of that. Like, it was like really cool. Yeah,
that's cool. I like that. Yeah, I thought kind of interesting to see because obviously Draco is just really powerful fire. Because the thing with the fire coverage is that I think the strongest physical fire move it gets is Fire Fang. If you want to go for the Fire Blast, then you get a little more power.
It can really catch off like Goldango, like Air Balloon, for example, that can just avoid this. So like,
yeah,
I love that. But yeah, with this next one, so even though there's no Dragon Dance for our boy here, you at least get Scale Shot now, which is awesome. So this set goes for the all-out offense. Swords Dance plus Scale Shot can give you some late game sweeping potential there if things fall your way. Again, EQ for the stab, Fire Fang for that coverage again, like on the Goldango or Corviknight, anything like that. Or again, any coverage that you see fit. If you're in a draft league and you're prepping for a specific team, Garchomp does have some options there. I think Garchomp even gets like Poison Jab or something like that. So
I think so, yeah.
If you're prepping for something specific, then you can't. On some of these next sets, you can go for Terra Blast too, if you want to do that. But as far as Terra for Garchomp, a lot of what I was kind of seeing and playing around with, it's medium to low demand on the Terra, so you don't have to. It doesn't necessarily require it, but you can definitely do it if you want to go for it. So next one, I got Focus Sash Chomp. So surviving big time attacks or like an ice type attack with Focus Sash gives Garchomp some revenge killing potential, or makes it just a more reliable setter for Stealth Rock if you want to lead with it. Despite this being more offensive, I just think Chomp is still a really good rock setter, so especially with that Sash, I have rocks on here anyways. Yeah. On this set, you can alternatively run Life Orb on this if you want to push like Terra Steel, Iron Head to hit fairy types. You can also do loaded dice on this anyways for the Scale Shot. You can do like Lumberry as well, but I know Sash has a little bit of utility there for the revenge or just to get rocks off. And then my last one, I had to get a little wonky with it. This has no usage on Picolytics as of the last month, but I have a band or a scarf chomp. Just looking at it, I was like, that's kind of running dry on what I can think of, but Garchomp's base attack is 130. That means it doesn't necessarily have to set up too much to punch some holes in teams. So Choice Band is going to really appreciate the speed boost from Scale Shot. Or if you do run Scarf, Scale Shot is like a less risky dragon move than Outrage. And then for that fourth slot, again, you have Iron Head, but you can also go for Stone Edge for massive damage, and that prevents you from getting walled late game by like Terra Flying Goldengo or Terra Fairy Levitate Mons, like Latios runs Terra Fairy, something like that. I saw some people do like Rock Tomb. It's obviously weak, but speed control could be nice. Like if you're running Scarf and you're planning on sacking Garchomp off, you can just do a Choice Scarf Rock Tomb to kind of help your team out a little bit on the switch in, something like that. Obviously, Terra Blast, you can do Terra Steel, Fire, or Fairy on this. Yeah. But I was thinking, the last thing I'll say on this, you can do Band or Scarf, depending on your team structure. Obviously, Band is going to trade out the Revenge Killing for wall breaking and punching holes in the other team, while Scarf is going to give you that Revenge Kill. I was doing some calcs on this. On Max Speed, Bundle, and Flutter Mane, as long as their Photosynthesis or Quark Drive isn't active, then you outspeed them. And then you also outspeed some other common Scarfers like Choice Scarf Goldengo and Choice Scarf Chiyu. And then you KO them with an EQ, both of them. So thought maybe that could have some nice little revenge killing potential, but that's my Land Shark boy. So we're trying to make him viable again. So there we go. All right, so now Chompy is coming to us. So Chompy has Brute Bonnet.
All right.
He constructed a full team for us, dude. So we're pumped. Let's hear it.
Disclaimer. I have said I have not played the meta for a month. So before you guys attack me, this team is according to a month ago. But I built this Brute Bonnet team. Now, the most popular set for Brute Bonnet is usually loaded dice. It's usually more success. And as you see later down in the list, if you pair with Torkoal, you can activate its Photosynthesis and then really boost its attack. And then you can just go for Sucker Punch, Bullet Seed, Crunch, and then like Terra Blast Fire if you really want it for like other coverage. Mainly for like other grass types, steel types, those type of Pokemon that could literally put a hamper on it, trying to sweep and beat down monster Pokemon towards your opponent's side. So I thought that was a great Pokemon. Now, Great Tusk is here, and even now when I was like talking about it when reviewing for the team, thinking about it reviewing for the team. Now, the one thing that OU currently has is Zamazenta, which is pretty powerful, and King Gamut. I mean, at points I actually did want to remove Tusk for a physically bulky Moltres, because Moltres has Flame Body, can stop Zamazenta with its Will-O-Wisp, but then also, again, Body Press doesn't really take account of attack, so it doesn't really matter. I guess if you're facing against like Choice Band Zamazenta, it does matter, so that could vary, but especially for King Gamut, like, I hate King Gamut. Even its name, King Gamut, like, it is truly the king of Generation 9, so any way to stop that thing with a Flame Body or Will-O-Wisp, hey man, let's put Moltres and slap it on the team. But otherwise, like, Great Tusk could work, it could be a Rapid Spin user, but I mainly put it as a Photosynthesis user, just a basic set that I was able to find. And, nice. Bulk ups, it's a pretty standard set you could use. And then you got Torkoal down there, like Terra-type flying. To be honest, like, Terra-type doesn't matter. You ain't like, ever going to Terra-type this turtle. Like, sorry, Torkoal, I love you, but, hey, man, ain't no one going to Terra-type you. Bulk nature, be super physically defensive. Lava Plume, Rapid Spin, Stealth Rock, Will-O-Wisp. Yeah, there have both Rapid Spin users. I didn't even change the Rapid Spin on Great Tusk. Probably should have done that. We could have probably put like Knockoff, which was probably better for it. But for Torkoal, like, I think this is a pretty good, standard set. All you really try to do is just get up the sun, and then you can let Brute Bonnet go to work, really. And if there's hazards coming in from Gliscor, from Landorus, whatever, you could just Rapid Spin them away before you either die or you switch out, And then you have Will-O-Wisp, obviously. It was like what Moltres could do, but I remember we had Torkoal, and like also having 2 fire types on the team could be a bit detrimental, because that would make us very exploitive against, like, maybe if there's a Walking Wake on the other side who could use the sun, or like, I guess, like Ogerpon in general. So that's just not fun. So just having a Torkoal, just having 1 fire type, I think that was just a much better call. And so the next Pokemon that I have is like Walking Wake. This is a pretty standard set. Now, Walking Wake isn't like the most explosive Pokemon in the tier. Like, you could argue it's just like underneath Sun with Photosynthesis. I think this thing's a beast, especially on Sun teams. I feel like it's like a must-have. Like, it's too good not to use, especially Hydro Steam. That thing gets like a boost from 80 base power all the way to like what, 100, 120, something like that, right? So like, that's just that. Yeah, exactly. That's just insane. You can just max speed it out. You don't even you have choice specs on a flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, Draco Meteor. Hydro Steam has got coverage from fire to water to dragon. Pretty standard. It's a pretty good water type that works underneath rain. Just another good Paradox Pokemon that's been released. This is a pretty standard set I've seen. Now the idea with Hatterene is you Healing Wish, you can revive Brute Bonnet. It also has Eject Button to scout out, has Psychic, Nuzzle to slow down, especially pretty fast Pokemon that Brute Bonnet probably can't outspeed. So you could use that. I don't think I adjust the EVs properly. I mean, you could have it in defensive. Now, me personally, you already have 2 defensive Mons in Tusk and Torkoal, so making just more specially defensive is probably the better call, because you need more of a special defensive kind of tank. And Hatterene anyways takes care of those fairy types like Enamorus or whatever that want to go against Tusk's fighting type, or Bonnet's like dark type. So having Hatterene and probably more boosting on the special defense side would work. Now, to be fair, like all these Pokemon are pretty standard, so you can mess with the EVs however you choose to, especially this team. I've seen this team being tossed around with Brute Bonnet a ton of times, but a lot of people switch up the moves in EV, so it's really kind of up to you. Yeah. And like the last Pokemon is like Roaring Moon Boost Strategy. This is just really standard. One, my thought was to get rid of Zamazenta, and 2, my thought was just to cause the absolute most destruction. And what better Pokemon to almost call upon but Roaring Moon, who was always in controversy to be banned because people just hate facing this thing. You got Dragon Dance, Knockoff, Acrobatics, and you got Terra type Flying to really boost his acrobatics. And then you just got EQ because that's just standard. It deals with the Steel types. It could probably stop it. So it's just unstoppable, plain old boost energy. And then with the photosynthesis, obviously, so you kind of preserve your boost energy if you put this out even earlier. So you could technically have 2 boost energies, I believe, like throughout the battle if you're timing it properly, or not. You still have a boost energy to still use. I think the one con with this team though is I don't know if I put enough heavy duty boots is probably more of a must. And maybe you can substitute the eject button on Hatterene with heavy duty boots. It's because just hazards are just still a huge problem in the tier, and I still think even with the Algo Dangle, you're still going to encounter a lot of hazards because there's not many viable users to get rid of them to begin with. So you could probably run heavy duty boots and a couple more Pokemon. Maybe you can replace choice specs and just max out the special attack and speed for walking away. Put heavy duty boots, preserve some HP or Hatterene. But this team is obviously designed to be more hyper offensive. You get your damage out quick and early. You don't really let them have that time to set up. If you let that time to set up for the opponents to really set up on you, then you just have kind of those hazards kind of linger around. Now you do have Hatterene with Magic Bounce as well that could reject those hazards. Yeah, you kind of have to play your cards a bit carefully. Hazards, I feel like, can kind of destroy this team. Enamorus, it can be fairy types in general is pretty huge. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. You basically got almost 4 weaknesses to fairy. So fairy's pretty huge. You could actually substitute Great Tusk with Iron Treads. I feel like that could be much better because Iron Treads is pretty fast, it's pretty defensive, and it can help with those fairy type coverage moves that could be a problem. So that's a good substitute if you're trying to kind of make this optimize this team a bit better, I feel like. But the other Pokemon like Walking Wake, I mean, you could probably substitute a couple more. There's Raging Bolt, who's also a good Pokemon, but there's also no water coverage boost. It works better in rain. So water, I feel like Walking Wake, you kind of stranglehold on the other, but a stranglehold on this team, excuse me. But I mean, you could tweak around with this team, but I feel like for what Brute Bonnet and its limited role, because come on now, let's face it, this mushroom Pokemon, OU Pokemon, it's never going to make an appearance in OU. Probably never going to top ladder again. I don't think it will. Ain't no one with this mushroom. But if you put this mushroom out, I think this team could be a bit solid, just a bit tweaks here and there, but it's not perfect. But you guys could definitely change up things around for what you're like.
I also like that Terrifier on there with it, so that it can take on fire types. It can take on the fairy types as well.
Yeah,
or at least get resistance to the fairy. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty cool.
So if we're curious, I'm on Pikalytics right now, just looking at the usage on OU right now. So for Slither Wing right now, it's 0.63%. So not really.
This video, it's gonna be 6.3%.
It's gonna be 6.3%.
That's much better than Brute Bonnet's awful 0.04%. Like 8.
I was gonna say, yeah, Brute Bonnet that is literally no, maybe 2 people, literally 2 people are using this. Garchomp is at 2.1. That's a little higher than but I mean, yeah, Brute Bonnet's literally not even being touched right now. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. But I like it, dude. I can see the synergy here. I can see the sun setting for Torkoal. I can see the defensive core, the hazard clearing.
So I'm just curious, Chompy, as you kind of were, building out this idea. So, like, where did you start next? Like, after you had Brute Bonnet, like, where did you start next? Or did you start everywhere else and then kind of bring Brute Bonnet in as the focal point?
The way I kind of like build Pokemon or like my Pokemon teams, I kind of like whatever. Like, if, for example, if I'm building around, I don't know, let's say like Infernape, right? Like you're building around Infernape. What's Infernape want to do? You want to be a fast attacker with Infernape. It's kind of like a Focus Sash, maybe a Choice Scarf user. I guess it depends on the generation, but let's just say it's a Choice Scarf user, kind of in and out, kind of pivot upon. You have U-turn, you have whatever moves on it, right? You want to look at its weaknesses and what does it really work well with? Well, it works well as a pivot mon, probably more on hyper offensive teams because it's frail, if it's too slow. If it's more on a slow-based Pokemon, it could be caught with hazards and stuff like that. So then my next point is I'll leave you to kind of build out the defensive identities, fire and fighting, right? So it's weak to fairy. Can we pull up a steel type? Can we pull up something that can help maybe against those fire types? Oh, Heatran, flash fire. It can take off those fire types, And then you have a fighting type weakness with Heatran, that's probably that's somewhat of an example. It's probably not the most perfect example, but like here with the Brute Bonnet, it's like the same thing, it's grass and dark. Like, what are some things that will probably affect it? Fire is a really good one. Like, unless we're Terra typing it, then you have like Great Tusk. You also have Torkoal, both Pokemon that can resist fire. But now we have a huge fairy type weakness. So what do we have to deal with fairy types? Well, one, we have those Terra types of fire and poison, but we don't also want to be too reliant on Terra types because that can make us very predictable going down the road using this team because people keep seeing it, then they'll just assume, oh, you're going to Terra type because it looks pretty weak on the front end. So you kind of have Hatterene in the back. And then from there, okay, Brute Bonnet is a slow Pokemon. What if Sun is not up? You need some way to get offense, right? Walking Wake is still naturally pretty fast. You have Roaring Moon with acrobatics and booster energy, so that instantly gives you a lot of speed, instant damage, and really suits it to what the Brute Bonnet wants to do. It's serving well into this kind of mediocre hyper offensive team, and it's trying its really best to fulfill it. But once photosynthesis is off, you need other alternative ways to dominate. Now, that being said, not every team is perfect. As you can see, this team has still a huge hole with the Dragon being a huge weakness and probably some core of defensive identity. You could say like Great Tusk, like if you're looking for a fire type resist, you could put Moltres, they're on and on discussions, or Iron Treads, so not every team is going to be perfect. You could probably reduce the amount of fairy type weaknesses by putting Iron Treads, to be honest, because you have that Steel type. But that's kind of how I like to build my teams, take that one Pokemon, figure out what I'm going to do with it. What kind of team will it really serve as, whether it's a hyper offensive, it's a bulky, and then kind of build a defensive identity that kind of rolls with it, and then find other suitable like offensive Pokemon that kind of complement what it's trying to do. Like Walking Wake, it's a water type, complements what Brute Bonnet is, and then Roaring Moons is just an all around, kind of
really
can deal with photosynthesis. Yeah, just exactly like you said.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's a simple way to kind of get the building blocks that you need. I feel like, and from there kind of build out. That's really, really nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think for anyone who's team building out there, whether you're laddering super seriously, you need to lean into the meta, or you want to just use something that's purely fun because it's a Pokemon you like, or if it's a mix of both, where you want to use stuff you like but you also want to ladder well. I think it's important to have this good mix of, you use what you like, because ultimately it's about having fun, right? It's about playing the game that you love, using the Pokemon that you like, but also being realistic, right? Like, if you're trying to seriously ladder with a specific Pokemon, you also need to understand that a meta exists for a reason, right? There are mons that are good for a reason, and so if you do that, then you do need to kind of cater to that specific Pokemon and build a team in a specific way to complement that as good as possible. And I think this is a great example of that, because we joked about it. Brute Bonnet, quite frankly, is it's not great, but as we can see, there is a way where if you ran with this, I think it'd be fun to try and ladder with this and see what you can make happen.
You could do this with any Pokemon, like even an OU, UU. Now, obviously picking Pokemon super low, like Avalugg or like any of that effect, like you're gonna have low chances of winning, but that's what building a team is. You kind of learn how to build around its strong points. Now, a Pokemon like Avalugg has a lot of weaknesses, so more like it'll be like a 5v6 Pokemon match. You could probably just carry it, to be honest. But you can still find ways to ladder with whatever favorite Pokemon it is, barring, it's not egregiously out of the realm that you probably shouldn't be using it. Like in Ubers, if you're using something ridiculous, like, come on now, what are we saying? The same with OU,
So before we, sign off and things like that, we did want to give you a little bit of time to plug anything that you might be working on or any exciting events coming up for your community. And then we'll sign off. And I think next time, Josh and I might actually steal a couple of these ideas. And anyone out there, if you want to be using these Pokepastes. We'll throw these in the description, and we can just try it out and see how the ideas would work together. So I love that. But Chompy, do you have anything that you want to plug?
I mean, yeah, first of all, like, thank you guys for having me. This was such a blast, last podcast episode. I don't know how long that was ago. Maybe like, is it September or something like that? But
something like that, yeah.
It was pretty early on, but it was great, honored to be like one of the first few guests you guys had, and now still back again, having a great time. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with this exercise, kind of a bit of a thinking exercise, kind of doing a bit of a research, but I haven't done that in a minute. So, but it was truly fun. And as for anything to plug, subscribe to Skill Link, guys. Come on, hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, other than that, y'all already know who I am. Just check me out, Chompy.
Yeah, dude.
And
we'll plug it.
Yeah. And then, hey, man, I'm going to try to release more videos, but my schedule's kind of getting packed. But you can count on YouTube Shorts coming here and there when I got free time, though. So.
No, you're good, man. It's been great. We will we'll plug everything. Yeah, you guys know where to find Chompy, but we'll get you all the links. He's been killing it. Yeah, recently talked about we talked about Moltres earlier. I know you talked about some of the up and coming legendaries in Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah,
dude, the thumbnails you have are the evil Moltres looking at the burnt King Gambit, dude. That's so good. I love it.
Shout out to my artist. He's so incredible. Like I can't do. He's so down to do whatever designs I have. Or like video ideas, and he just cooks up some of the most like spectacular ones I've seen. Like, yeah.
For sure. But again, everyone go check out. It's a great like toolbox of different videos that will kind of help you situate yourself in the meta, talk about why certain Pokemon work, why certain ones don't, what trends are happening, stuff like that. It's great stuff, man. So we're excited to see what you have. Obviously life is crazy. We get that, man. But whenever you pump stuff out, we know and we can vouch that it's gonna be top tier quality. So
fire.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah.
Man. Sweet.